Ireland let a 13-point lead slip as France scraped into the semi-finals. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. This really was a chance missed by Ireland. They let this game slip through their fingers. Not just saying that because I'm Irish. I really felt like, they'd really produced a performance today that could have got them to that victory, but second half performance wasn't there from them, unfortunately. But let's go from the start. So Ireland, to get themselves in a good position in the French 22, they're about 5 metres out. Tap on a penalty from O'Dowd, strong carry from her right up to the line, and then Linda Dewgang goes over to score. Conversion missed, 5-0. And Linda Dewgang, just to say, this entire World Cup campaign for Ireland been absolutely immense. Like, I think in the last year, she's always been one of Ireland's most important and top players. But I think the last year her performance has just gone to another level. She absolutely destroyed in the scrum, brilliant carrying the loose as well. But in Ireland, they're putting France under immense pressure, both with and without the ball, and also in the set piece, especially the scrum, where France really struggling to cope with Dewgang's power and technique. Then we have Grace Bernadou, so she's to go for an HIA for France. Then we see the replays. She's actually, has tackled an Irish player upright. And while she's off the field getting her HIA, she does return, but she gets a yellow card. And then that goes to TMO review to the bunker. But, there's mitigation there because there's a second tackler involved, and there's a bit of kind of change of direction from the Irish player as well. So it stays yellow. I think that was fair. Ireland, then you feel like, they need to stretch their lead during this yellow card period, and they do. Again, immense pressure, close to the line. They suck in the defence and then they move it left where Flood is able to get over. Conversion missed is 10-0. And Ireland just completely dominating. They forced a penalty then at the scrum just before the break, and Dana O'Brien puts it over from the tee, for 13-0. We have maybe a minute or so left in the half, but for me, the most crucial period of the game actually happens now. So Ireland win another penalty in that final minute. They kick to the edge of 22. They catch and drive a maul to within 5 metres out, and they're absolutely just steamrolling. And it's brought down illegally by Fibal. Once, play is brought back, she's sent to the bin for that. And Ireland are asking about a potential penalty try. It wasn't close enough to the line to give it, and I think the referee was correct in that. And then Ireland then, they're absolutely camped in there. They're winning a few penalties in a row, and to go through 30-odd phases, 7 minutes in that French 22, over the halftime, the Hooters already gone. They're still trying to get over that line, but France, a woman down, able to keep them out. And not just that, they turn the ball over and then they get the ball off for halftime. And I think that was a huge G up for the French. And, for the Irish, you felt like that was the winning of the game for them. They had to go over for a try there. It felt like the gap then might have been a bit too much for France to come back. But 13 points, in the conditions, it was a horrible day. It was windy and there was plenty of rain as well. But, it felt like 13 points still probably not enough for them. And then into the second half then, Ireland, they start off well. They win successive scrum penalties, but they end up getting one reversed for taking a player off the ball. And this turned out to be the catalyst for France. It allows them then to get themselves off the mark from the tee and make it 13 points to 3. And the comeback now is beginning for them. And it seemed to give them a bit of confidence as well from there. France, they got the momentum and they're attacking into 22. Grace Moore gets pinged for a high tackle and then she goes to the bin. So now France have the numbers on Ireland. And France just stay there in that Irish 22. They tap penalty, suck in the Irish defence before recycling. A nice reverse of direction for Bourdon. And then Escudero rides what was honestly a poor tackle from O'Brien to get over the score. Converted for 13 points to 10. And now Ireland are really looking shaky at this stage. They do, or they seem to have steadied themselves a little bit. Even during that yellow card period, they're in the French 22, they're attacking, they're putting that pressure on, and you feel like if they can get a score here, and that's what they needed to do, keep that scoreboard ticking over. If they can get a score here, re-establish themselves a little bit, then, potentially the win is there for them. But again, France get in there, they turn the ball over, and they spin it wide, and it is Grisey who just has the pace to go all the way from her own 22 and hands off, I think it was Bevan Parsons' tackle in the end. Conversions missed then, but 15 points to 13. France in the lead for the first time, and there isn't much time left in the game now for Ireland to come back. France then, game goes back and forth a little bit, but France win another penalty. It's kickable. They go for it. And, with about 4 minutes left on the clock to make it 18-13, which meant that Ireland now need to try to draw the game and the conversion of that to actually win it. And, if there had been a draw, it would have been golden point after that. And Ireland, in fairness to them, they really go for it in the last kind of minute or so. They, we have Ireland applying pressure. Chambeau goes to the bin in the final minute of the game, and Ireland are down there in the corner. They're they've got a line out, but as much as the scrum went well for them today, the line out not so much, and they overthrow at the line out. France get the ball, and then they get it off the field, and Ireland really having a lot of difficulty in that second half, trying to just get some points on the board. As much as kind of things bouncing the ball and stuff went their way in the first half, it went the other way in the second half. But brilliant effort from them. France just about, I would say, deserving to win, because you have to say that for them to come back as well from 13 points down, in those conditions and just claw their way back into the game, and it was built on their defense really, and that's, that period just before half time and then in the second half as well, like the breakaway try actually came because of their defense, their ability to compete at the breakdown as well. But let's have a look at the stats, and then we will have a chat about each of the teams. So starting off with territory, 66% to 34 in favour of Ireland, and possession 65 to 35. So Ireland with pretty much double the amount of territory and possession as France. And as I said, in the first half, the good thing about them was when they had that, they were scoring points. In the second half, they weren't able to do that, and it felt like they in that second half, I don't think you could say that they kind of choked a little bit, but it wasn't as good as it could have been from them. Ball security, looking at, they knew France were going to compete at the breakdown, and they didn't have the numbers there to be able to, handle business for them. And really with that much possession and territory in that second half, they should have got some points on the board. And, they should have basically put themselves in a position where France were looking to draw the game rather than win the game. Then on to meters carried. France with 430 to Ireland's 278, and 93 carries from France and 198 from Ireland. So France making 4 meters per carry. A lot of those carries were in that second half where they were making meters, finding gaps and breaking and stuff like that. Ireland then, a lot of their ones were in the forwards, hard carries, averaging about 2.7 meters per carry for them, so tougher for them to make that go forward. And especially because a lot of the game was being played in the French half, so they're not going to make as many meters with ball in hand. Look, success then, 93% for France, 97% for Ireland. 97 is brilliant, but it was just those couple of key times where France were able to turn the ball over and completely turned the game on its head. Defenders beating out 15 for France, 10 for Ireland. Offloads 11-5, and then passes just 86 for France to 216 for Ireland. Rucks won 57-176. So you can see the dominance that Ireland had there. Mauls won 2 for France, 8 for Ireland. And then maul meters, like France maul 2 meters from 2 mauls. That's a meter per maul. Ireland 50 meters mauled from 8 mauls. So an average of 6 meters per maul. Absolutely brilliant from them. But again, they couldn't get everything lined up in that second half. On to set piece then. Scrum success, 86% for France, 100% for Ireland. France always under pressure in the scrum. And the fact as well, Jugang went off, and then, it was her replacement that got the yellow card, so she came back on as well. So, they thought they got rid of her, and they seen the back of her, and then she was back, haunting their nightmares. Set piece, 1 then 12 for France, 28 for Ireland. Line out success, 86 for France, 94 for Ireland. So, Ireland, it was that one line out that went wrong for them, right to death. They were under pressure in the line out earlier on in the game as well. It wasn't as clean for them as scrum, but, scrums 6 won by France, 11 by Ireland, and then lineouts, France 6 out of 7 won by them, Ireland 17 out of 18, which is brilliant, but again, under a little bit of pressure, and the pressure on that final throw to potentially get them into the semi-final was obviously a little bit too much, and whether it was the throw or the lifters or the jumpers or the call or wherever, the ball didn't go where it was supposed to go, and it unfortunately for Ireland, that was the end for them. On to kicking then, kicks and play 25-29, which after seeing yesterday's semi-finals with kind of low kind of double figures for kicks from hand, this is kind of more we've been used to seeing in the pool stages. Ireland had a decent kicking strategy, and it got them all that territory that they wanted. But again, it was about kind of lining everything up in that second half and connecting it all together, and they weren't able to do that. Then kick success from the tee, 75% for France and just 33% for Ireland. So left a lot of points on that tee. And one of the things, this World Cup compared to other World Cups has been the vast improvement in the kicking stats from the tee. But for Ireland today, unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Kicks into touchdown, 10 for France, 14 for Ireland. Tackle success, 92% for France, 76 for Ireland. So 92 was brilliant, excellent. Ireland 76. It's way too low. You've got to be at least in the 80s. Normally you're aiming for kind of mid 80s as a passable mark. So 76, not good enough. And unfortunately for Ireland, falling off those tackles as well allowed France to get in those positions and to score those tries as well. Turnovers 1-9 each. Tackles made 273 for France and 105 for Ireland. And then penalties conceded, 17 for France and 10 for Ireland. So, neither team squeaky clean in this one, but obviously France, under pressure at times, especially in the scrum and giving away penalties. Yellow cards then 3 for France and 1 for Ireland. And, the good thing about Ireland in the first yellow card period was they made a count, they took points. But after that then, especially the second yellow card period, they couldn't do that. And the fact that they spent so long at the end of the first half trying to get over, and France turned the ball over, that used up pretty much the entire yellow card period. And then the final one it was the last minute, so they didn't really have like a full yellow card period to take account of. But France did score during Ireland's yellow card period. Okay, so those are the stats. Let's have a look at some individual stats as well. Let's see. So we got Borghese with the most points in the game, 8. So a try, and she got, I think, a penalty as well. And then most tackles was Fibal Raclo with 26, and then Grisey with 64 meters. The most meters, those are all scoring that try. She went 64 meters and scored a try, so must have been that. And then what else did we get? We got then gain line carries, and then Linda Dugan with 12 for Ireland. Again, absolutely brilliant player for Ireland. And you see there with that Ireland team, well, there's a core of a decent team there, but they need to get, more into that team as well. And let's actually talk about the teams first. So let's start with France, because I want to finish in Ireland because I'm Irish. But France, given an absolute scare in this one, they talked about in commentary, I think it was true, weren't really tested in their pool because South Africa changed so many players, trying to keep players fresh for their own quarterfinal. And maybe they got caught a little bit cold today, but you still have to credit them to be able to, first of all, keep Ireland out at the end of that half was a huge, immense defensive effort from them, and probably saved their World Cup campaign there. But then after that, then be able to reset themselves and come back out in that second half and start chipping away at that lead. And then once they got themselves ahead, not allowing Ireland to, hit back as well. So, overall, a bit of a shock for them that they almost went out. But that second half performance was so good for them to be able to come back and get themselves in that position. Now, whether they're going to be able to now perform in the semi-final against England is another thing. I think maybe, semi-final will be as far as they go. And then let's then talk about Ireland. So, did so well in the first half. They got themselves in position. They were taking points. They were moving that scoreboard along. And then end of the half, they just couldn't get the job done and get over for the try. And then the second half, then the wheels come off a little bit. They weren't moving the scoreboard anymore. And, if you're not doing that, then the problem is you're a static target for the opposition. And every time they're scoring points, they're getting closer and closer. And then the nerves kick in. I think maybe that happened a little bit for Ireland. And then once France got ahead and Ireland had to chase the game, it just became so much harder for them, because the way Ireland were, doing it in the first half it was relentless pressure. And then France, out of kind of desperation then, giving away penalties and giving Ireland positions. And then as well, I thought France, in the second half, they adjusted their game, so that Ireland weren't getting as many scrums. There weren't as many scrums on the second half as the first half, because they weren't taking as many risks in terms of, having to knock the ball on and that kind of stuff as well. So it was harder for Ireland to get those penalties, to get themselves right in to the French 22. We know Ireland, they've got to take this as kind of something to learn from, take the lessons from this and build on it, because we've seen with Ireland in the past, Ireland have been to semi-finals in the Women's World Cup previously, and they've had purple patches for a couple of years, but we haven't seen Ireland being close to that top table for a properly extended period of time. I think that's the challenge now for Ireland is, they almost knocked over France. Now, next year in the Six Nations, can they do the same? Can they actually beat them, or can they stay close? Or are France going to blow them out the way they've done previously? And that's really I think the big challenge for Ireland, but also the RFU, because the RFU have really screwed over the women's game in the past. We've seen before where there was support there and there, financial backing, and then we did well, and then they took that away, and then they wonder why, we see the deterioration in the performances and kind of Ireland's rankings as well. Now that they've worked their way back up, it's time now for the RFU to not just to keep backing them, but to double down and to give them more backing as well. Because I've said it before that, if you're looking to grow the game of rugby right now, the real growth area is the women's game. It's not the men's game. The men's game, the thing is, for all of our Six Nations games at home, we're going to fill the Aviva. The same for our autumn internationals. So there's no kind of room, unless they can't build a bigger stadium, is the problem. So that you can't increase if it there. But in the women's game, there's huge potential. And we've seen it with the Red Roses. We've seen it in France, and we're seeing it in other countries as well. And Ireland don't want to get left behind on that. We need to keep backing these players. Like, a lot of them are playing over, in England in the Premiership. And because we don't have the equivalent of the URC for the women. There's like the Celtic Challenge, where they play against kind of combined teams in Wales and Scotland. But a lot of the players who aren't playing in England aren't getting enough regular games at the level that they need to really be able to sustain the performance that we saw today. And I think, that's the big, the big challenge for the RFU is, can you now put a plan together for the next 5, 10, 20 years in terms of development of the women's game in Ireland? Is it going to be like a mirror of the URC? Are you going to go a different way because that maybe doesn't suit the women's game? But what are you going to do to make sure that, these players are fully supported, and that, it's not just a case of one crop of players, that you're developing players below them as well to come in, make the squad stronger, etc. So, for Ireland, after big disappointment against New Zealand in, the final pool game, they really restored some pride today. They're obviously going to be hurting because the semi-final was there and they let it slip out of their hands. But now, as I said, it's a case now for women's rugby in Ireland as a whole to take this and then kick on from it, and not just let this be kind of a high tide mark that they don't reach again for another couple of years. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think down in the comments.